This just does something. It doesn't return any value. So when I want to use parameters with my functions, I want to give them information. A parameter works like this. And a well-written function is kind of a black box. We don't have to care how it works. We just know what goes into it, what comes out of it, or what it does. And we just trust that it works. And if we write our functions like this, that makes them reusable. It makes them easy to debug. It makes our programs easy to follow. So the function itself, what happens in the function stays in the function. I'm going to say that a lot because that's true a lot of the time, but we really don't care how it works. We just know that it does. Have you ever thought about how print works as a function? No. We just trust that if we type print and we put something in those parentheses, it's going to print that thing out, right? That's a good function. When we write a function, we want to work the same way. So where parameters are slots to get things into the functions. There are spaces where we put data that the function will then use. And do welcome as a function looks like this if I were to give it a parameter. Now, the original one, right, had a static message. I just called it and it printed the same thing over and over and over. Every time I call it function, it'll do the same thing. In this case, I'm providing it a message, and now it's taking that message and it's going to put it in that context. So when I call the function, I do it like this. And notice my parameter is named as a variable, str message. So I'm including the data type there. That's a really nice thing to do because it reminds you, oh, this takes a string. Because right here, you'll notice it's using a string method. If I give this an integer, it's going to error out. So I want to make sure that I give it a string so it works properly. But when I do this, it's going to print that. So let's play around with this for a second here in our code window. Now, if I want to take this function that we've created and I want to customize it a little bit, make it a little bit more powerful, I can give it a parameter that allows me to customize the message. So I'll call that string message. And I'm just going to replace that with that variable. Now, as I created this, as I changed up my function here, my definition, notice these guys are starting to have issues down here because now I've created a function that has a required parameter. So if I run this, see it's missing one required positional argument for str message. That's the error that I'm getting because it's saying, hey, that function requires a parameter. So if I want to give that a parameter, I can say something like this. And when I run that, that's the text that appears there. Or if I wanted to do this using a variable, I can take that variable and provide that as the parameter, or the argument, rather. So there's that. Okay, so this becomes very useful. But wait, there's more. I can take this and combine it with something we just covered, right? If I have a list of fruit, apples, grapes, bananas, and I say for str fruit in li fruit, for each one of those, I'm going to do the welcome and insert str fruit. Now it's going to do that 3 times with each fruit substituted in there. So you can see now that I've defined this, I can use it as if it's one of Python's native functions, but it just does what I want it to do. Okay, so if I wanted to change up the message, let's play with this just a bit. I like to eat. So I can change this in one place, and now it changes that function everywhere that function appears in my code. So having that function defined, or having the ability to create my own functions, gives me some really powerful abilities.